I'm going to kick the recording off. And Ashley, if you are all set and good to go, let's dive into the
Yes,
conversation today. Thank you all again for taking the time and joining our webinar today, where we're going to be talking about best practices for engaging alumni of your internship programs that just ended. You might have already finished your conversion process. You might be in the middle of your conversion process right now, right? And I thought this conversation and topic was super timely for industry leaders and professionals in the university recruiting space, as we just put all this time, effort, and resources into delivering a rockstar internship experience. And a lot of the questions that we're getting is like, now what? How do I ensure that the investment that I put into this internship program continues on when these alumni are going back to campus, they're advocates for our brand, and have that conversion offer that they've ultimately accepted. So that'll be the topic of the conversation today. I'll kick it off with a quick introduction. For those that don't know me, my name is Parker Pell. I'm one of the co-founders here at Abode. Abode, our product and our platform is really designed to help campus recruiting teams to engage and retain early career talent from the day someone signs that internship offer throughout the internship program and until they join you as a full-time employee after they've converted. We love university recruiting. Our founding story, I was a former intern at one point in time, and me and my two other co-founders had a less than ideal post-offer candidate experience, and our friends had similar ones. And so we started Abode to try to solve that, right? How can we ensure that campus teams are meeting those expectations of the talent they're bringing into the organization during those gaps, during that internship program, to ultimately deliver the most Gen Z forward experience possible? So I talk about university recruiting all day and all night. It seems like it's something I'm super passionate about and super excited for today's conversation. Ashley, if you don't mind, introduction to you, yourself, your role, and then talk a bit about kind of Global Atlantic Financial Group's program that you're running.
of course. Well, thank you, Parker, for having me. Really excited about this conversation. I think it's a great topic, and especially as we're heading into the fall recruiting season, we're so focused on hiring interns, but it's super important that we don't forget about those that will be joining us next summer full time. Excited to dive into this topic. So my name is Ashley Silva. I lead the early career team at Global Atlantic. We are a leading financial services company. So we focus in the insurance space, specifically life insurance and annuities. We also have a reinsurance business, and we are a wholly owned subsidiary of KKR. So we've got about 9 offices across the US and Bermuda, 1,500 employees, and we have an internship program that's about 65 students every summer. And we hire interns anywhere from your investments, mergers, deal types of interns to sales, marketing, technology, corporate accounting, finance. So we have a lot of different types of backgrounds and skills that we hire for. And a big part of our strategy is to convert those interns after a successful internship. So we are of the mind that you recruit once, hire twice. To be able to bring those people back full time is a big part of our strategy and pipeline for analysts coming into our firm. So we believe deeply in an alumni strategy, making sure that we're staying in touch and engaging those folks to make sure that they are not only excited to come back to work with us, but also act as brand ambassadors on their campuses. So yeah, really excited to be here.
There's so much that we're going to get into because your all strategy is super impressive, and I hope that it'll provide our audience some thoughts and ideas around how you could elevate your alumni engagement strategy today. I will be monitoring the chat and the Q&A as well. Just one call out. So if you do have questions, we will hold the questions till the end of the conversation, and then we'll open it up for answering your questions as well. So feel free to drop any questions in the Q&A and or the chat. But I always find it productive in these types of webinars and conversations to just kind of take a step back and think about and look at really the data behind one, who are these individuals that we're bringing into our university recruiting programs? And then two, why is it so important that we have a defined alumni engagement strategy for our intern conversions, as well as those interns that maybe don't immediately convert? We'll dive into that a bit longer. But a few data points that I want to run through before we start to pick Ashley's brain on exactly what Global Atlantic Financial Group is doing here. Let's start with kind of who Gen Z is, right? And what are they looking for and expecting from employers? 70% of them want to build relationships with their peers and their future teammates, right? So obviously, as we're talking about alumni, they've just gone through the internship. They probably know each other in some sort of fashion. Maybe they weren't in the same function. Post-program, making sure that our alumni and our intern conversions have a community to stay connected with one another, right? I'm the oldest Gen Z, I can claim, right? The oldest one in the generation, believe it or not. And I think that Gen Z as a whole, what's going to keep them around and excited is that they have those relationships with one another. They have a close friendship with that fellow peer. That's going to be something that's really going to want to ensure and make sure that they adhere to that offer that they signed, right? 94% of them also want to make sure that they're connected with a hiring manager and a mentor before their first day. So as we think about our alumni, they just finished the program. They probably had a manager and they probably had a mentor in some form or fashion. Now they've accepted this full-time offer and it's going to be their first like real job now coming into the organization. How are we connecting them with someone who maybe was just an intern conversion that's 6 months or a year into their full-time opportunity to learn what they did well, what they have learned, and how they can set themselves up for success in that next job? 68% of them wanting to join events hosted by their employer, thinking about our alumni, right? How can we engage our alumni in the ways that we're already going to be on their campuses? We're in fall recruiting, as Ashley mentioned, right? If you're going to those campuses where you have those alumni that just converted as an intern, could they come to your booth? Could you take them to dinner with potential future interns? Ways easily to get them socially engaged and an advocate for the brand overall. And then why is it important that these conversions that we're putting all this effort into are coming back to our organization? NACE reported 47% of converted or 47% higher 1-year retention rate for converted interns versus non-converted interns. So those interns that already had that experience, they understand the company culture in some form or fashion, right? We're putting this investment into increasing our intern conversion rate, which is a metric that we're all tracking towards and reporting into to showcase the efficacy of our program to our internal stakeholders. There's a higher retention rate with those interns. So that's what's going to continue to build ultimately the investment and the buy-in in the program in and of itself. And I think this one is super interesting is 40% reduction in recruitment costs by hiring previous interns versus non-interns. We're all tracking our cost per hire. How can we showcase that our cost per hire is going down? One key way is ensuring that the interns that we've converted are showing up on that first day, right? They are being retained past 1 year. They're being promoted at a rate X% faster than non-interns. So everything going into the conversation today, I think this data just kind of highlights the importance of one, having that defined alumni engagement strategy, but also two, catering to who the generation that we're bringing in and who these alumni truly are into the organization. Ashley, any sort of kind of anecdotes as you like kind of think about this data that you can share, how you all think about kind of this data and your strategy, and is this a part of why you all have such a defined alumni strategy?
Well, first of all, I love this slide. I think that if anyone out there is struggling with communicating the importance of intern conversions or why you have an early career strategy, I think there's a lot on here that really supports the why behind organizations having an early career program. So 40% reduction in recruitment costs. I think that really leans into why we need to engage alumni, because when we hire those people from the intern program, it reduces our costs and it has a direct impact in how we think about recruiting and the budget that is allocated to recruiting. So if we're able to alleviate some of that from hiring intern conversions, we can focus our dollars on maybe those senior level roles that are super tough to fill and, we need to hire search firms for. So I think that was something that really stuck out to me. And I also think retention, right? Like, I think having brand ambassadors, people that are really connected to your firm because of the experience that you gave them over the summer, just creates that stickiness factor when they're coming to your firm full time. That sort of breeds engagement across that cohort to maybe those people that didn't come through the intern program, but now they're sort of connecting with those people that had this great experience over the summer. So this slide is really cool. So if you could send that to me afterwards,
Certainly.
there's a lot of great things that I think we can all, use with our stakeholders and sharing some great information.
Certainly, and we kind of already hit on the kind of initial question based on that data that I wanted to hit on. I'll make sure to send the slides to everyone afterwards. But I mean, I think Ashley, retention is what I heard as kind of one pillar for importance of having this defined strategy to engage intern alumni. Two is reduction in recruitment costs, right? Those sound like things that y'all are tracking and reporting into as well. Anything else or anything you want to expand on either of those pillars, as someone sitting in the audience right now is saying, I'm going into recruiting, like I just converted all my interns, now I have this full slate of career fairs going on, but why would you say it's important for them to kind of take a step back and say, let's spend a couple hours just thinking about how are we engaging our alumni?
Yeah, so outside of the recruitment costs and retention, I think it really builds in nicely to a fall recruiting strategy. So I think you talked about it a little bit in terms of like engaging those people on campus. So now they're back on campus for their senior year. They already have a job. So, they're definitely, really focused on what's next for them in their journey. And so when you're going on campus, figuring out ways to tap into that. So, bringing them to a career fair. So we just went to Penn, for example, and we have a number of alumni that are back on campus for their senior year. And actually, we had someone who's already committed with us for the following summer come and spend time with us at our booth. So it was really nice having some familiar faces with us. So and students love that. Like, they love to be able to participate in recruiting events. They love to be able to share their experiences and their stories. So it's not a difficult thing to engage them and have them be a part of your experience that you're sharing with prospective candidates. Taking them out to dinner, having them sit on a panel and talk about their internship experience. All of those ways are just really easy opportunities because you're already there and they're there. So just bringing those two pieces together, I think, is really, really helpful to engage them.
And I think a big part of having that alumni strategy is kind of how your team thinks about and defines alumni of your program. How do you all think about that at Global Atlantic Financial Group?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that we define alumni of our program are obviously our intern conversions, right? Like the ones that we made the offers to and they accepted the offers. That's, sort of an easy group of people to engage. We also engage people that we offered positions to, but maybe they didn't accept. Maybe they're going, to grad school, or maybe they are deciding to travel the world for a year. But they're people that were, top talent for us that we still want to be a part of our brand and make sure that we're staying in touch with them and making sure that they know opportunities at Global Atlantic. So that's a group of people that, we really want to make sure that we're paying attention to. And even the ones that decline our offer and go to another company. I actually have a scenario that's happening right now that this person was an accounting intern with us. She decided she really wanted to go to public accounting to get that experience, which, by the way, we fully supported that. Public accounting is a great opportunity, especially right out of school, to learn a bunch of different things. And she's been there for 3 years, and we've stayed in touch with her. And now she's interviewing for a full-time position with us at the senior analyst level. So it's because of that experience, obviously, that we gave her over the summer, but it's also about keeping in touch and saying, every 6 months, like, how is it going at, actually, I don't even remember what Big Four she's at, but at what Big Four firm, how is it going? And then, now that she's back in our process, I think it's just a really cool story of that boomerang and alumni cohort that we were able to keep engaged.
I think that third pool of talent that you just mentioned, of those who did go through our program, didn't convert, they could be experienced in their career 3, 5, 7 years down the line, is a extremely vetted talent pool that already has an idea of our company culture. And now looking back, I think you all keeping in touch with those individuals is a feat in of itself, as you think about it, right? Like, I'm sure everyone on the line here is thinking about all the interns that they've had the last 3 years, and now they're questioning, where is Parker that interned with us from 2021 that didn't join, right? And so I think that alumni database is best practice that we'll have a resource guide afterwards that we share with everyone for best practices. But I think that alumni database is super key. Now, I mean, talk specifically about Global Atlantic Financial Group, like leading the program, putting on, what is y'all's strategy to engage your program alumni?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a bunch of different things that we do over the course of the year that is all sort of bundled into the strategy. So number one is we do send out a newsletter. So whatever is sort of happening at Global Atlantic, sort of interesting things, things that maybe they need to keep an eye out for in terms of timelines and that sort of thing. We do that on a monthly basis. The other thing that we do are like swag boxes. So when they go through finals, their fall semester, we send them a swag box saying, good luck with your finals and have a great holiday break. And then we also do, we call them monthly engagement sessions, which are completely optional, but those start up in the spring, where we invite our intern alumni to engage with speakers. So we'll bring somebody in for Black History Month that will, give a career story and, give opportunities for our alumni to engage. We'll also do a wealth management seminar where it's how to invest, money management, those types of tools that I wish they would teach in school, but somehow it hasn't made it to academia yet. But that is a really well attended session. And then for part of our cohort, we actually do pre-learning. So for some of our investments, front office roles, they have a required 4 sessions. I think it starts in March, something like that, and they go through some night classes, if you will. And so that's a great way to engage. And then it's really about so when we offer intern conversions, some of the roles are defined, some of them are not. So for example, our accounting and finance interns, we know that they will be placed somewhere in the accounting and finance world, but we don't know specifically which team. So that communication happens about 60 days before they start. And we set up a coffee chat with their new manager if it's somebody that they haven't worked with before. And so, that's a part of our process as well. And then we do set up our alumni with a 1-year mentorship program, which is, sort of how we let them sort of decide the relationship. Some of them it's biweekly, some of them it's monthly, and so they're set up with this person for a year, to sort of be their buddy through their onboarding experience. So those are a couple of things that we're doing. We are starting to build out like an orientation. So we're trying to take it a bit further in terms of like, okay, they started with Global Atlantic, now what? And so we're trying to build out this like orientation, like almost like not leadership development because it's not that prescriptive, but like sort of an experience their first 2 years at Global Atlantic, just to give them like, again, that integration, tools, networking, to make sure that they're successful. So that is a work in progress, something that we're trying to build out for next year.
I think a lot of professional services firms that we work with as well incorporate a lot of the similar. They have a lot of certificates or requirements for new, like full-time employees coming into the organization, and leverage a lot of resources to share with alumni that can kind of get them a step ahead of
Yeah.
any sort of certificates, learning, etc. From there, I have a question. I'm sure people are wondering, who on your team owns the alumni engagement strategy, right? Is it a program manager? Is it a recruiter? Is it all hands on deck? How do you all kind of decide who is kind of the project owner of making sure that these newsletters, this swag, everything that y'all are doing is actually being done?
Yeah, great question. And I would love to have all those people. We are a very small but mighty group here at Global Atlantic, and actually, my analyst on my team actually just went out on maternity leave, so we're in a bit of a moment where it is sort of all hands on deck, and so we really think about it that we all are accountable for this experience, and so it's really important that it's not just an HR thing, right? Like we really engage we also have intern champions at Global Atlantic, which are sort of like people that either have been through the program, they've been previous managers, just people that are really embedded in the early career space. We also engage them to sort of be a part of this. So if they're going on campus, knowing who's the alumni that are still there, or reaching out and setting up coffee chats and those types of things. So it's not just an HR thing. We really make sure that we're engaging managers, we're engaging intern champions, and making sure that this is a collective experience and not just my contact in HR. Although we're great, we really want to make sure that they're speaking with more than just us. And also, I will say that using the Abode platform has been tremendous for us in organizing that experience. We're able to build out calendars and templates. We can set up events through your system. And so that has really helped organize us a bunch, because prior to that, it was the old, Outlook calendar reminders to send this out and do this, spreadsheet of who got, what swag item.
Mhm.
So, I think leveraging technology where you can, especially when you have a small team, is, really, really beneficial.
Yeah, and I think what we hear from a lot of our partners is there's an expectation from early talent in terms of personalization, and not just kind of getting a blanket, message and hoping for the best. And I think
Yeah.
that's a lot of kind of where we think about Abode, and kind of ensuring that there's that personalization while still scale for teams at the end of the day. Do I've also heard, I think, from some partners, and this could be an idea for the broader group as well, is some teams will even lean on their employee resource groups, business resource
Yeah.
groups, whatever you call them, who are already putting on events or sessions that they can forward to their intern alumni, those conversions who are going to be joining that organization, as a low lift but effective way to provide them a glimpse into, hey, here's when I'm an employee at Global Atlantic Financial Group or your organization, this is the type of stuff that I'm going to be able to get involved with, right? I can get that snapshot of that. So another idea I think that we hear is kind of leveraging those internal groups who have those sessions as well. If your organization will allow a conversion, I know
Mhm.
there's always questions around that from a compliance perspective, but it's something I think as well that we see. Do you all actually kind of segment the communications at all from kind of those different buckets of how you define your alumni for obviously conversions, maybe those that don't convert, and then the kind of longer term alumni database that y'all have?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely tailored based on, sort of the trajectory of that particular group.
Mhm.
And we also sort of segment based on, sort of job function as well. So some of the job functions, as I mentioned, in investments have, specific things as a part of their alumni experience that, our sales interns have a totally different requirement in terms of what they need to do at Global Atlantic once they get here. So, yeah,
Mhm.
I think it is important to sort of segment out,
Yep.
but also, I would say like for everybody that accepted an offer and that is joining, they all should know each other, right? Like we make sure that there's opportunities for them to exchange, information on, maybe moving to New York City, or maybe it is, hey, I'm working on this Excel module, trying to learn
Yeah.
more. Is anyone else sort of doing the same thing? Or, what computer are you looking at for like a home setup? Like those
Yeah.
types of things I think are really
Mhm.
important for them to lean on each other. I mean, obviously they can always ask us, but I think there's something about like creating a community and a cohort of people that
Yeah.
I think really strengthens that relationship,
Yeah.
and also makes them feel like they're not alone. So I think that's important.
Yeah, 100%. I think that that's great. And there's obviously a lot that more that we could dive into relating to that, but I want to make sure in terms of cognizant of time and being able to answer
Mhm.
questions for people, like you have this alumni engagement strategy. What has your team learned from this strategy that you've executed? One, what are your goals from a kind of ROI perspective of having a defined alumni engagement strategy at Global Atlantic?
Yeah, so I would say that the things that we've learned is definitely it matters. You might think like, oh, this is overkill in terms of my communication or what we're doing. It's not. This is their first job out of school. There's so many nerves. This is a big transformative moment in their lives. And so to have an organization that really cares about their experience in the way that we communicate and engage them, it really truly matters. And the amount of like thank you notes and just like, oh my gosh, you're easing my nerves or you're easing my fears, or, this information is really helpful. I think that is a big piece of like why it's so important. In terms of measuring, I mean, obviously, people joining and the success rate of that, I think is really important.
Yeah.
I would also go as far to say as like measuring what happens after they get here. So what is their performance like? How quickly were they able to onboard and add value? Did they join an ERG? Are they getting involved in the office? How quickly are they getting promoted? So all of those different metrics are things that you can look at and sort of compare and contrast against those that didn't come through your internship or alumni strategy. So we actually did a really big exercise on this, and what we found is that our intern classes performed higher in our engagement scores against their peers that were not hired through the internship program. They perform better, and they are being promoted at or a faster rate than their peers. So when you're able to tell that story, it is evident, why it's so important to focus on that and make sure that you're actively listening too, because they'll tell you like, hey, I this doesn't make sense, and making sure that you're responsive, or like, okay, let me sit down and answer your questions.
I love that. I think that that kind of falls into one of the tenets that our 2024 Gen Z report kind of found, which was this kind of notion of respect, right? And showing that respect and just listening to the feedback. Because I think
Yep.
that if you're successfully engaging the alumni of your internship program, those are the ones that are probably going to be the most honest and open with kind of what went well, what could have gone
Yep.
better in their previous experience to inform the program overall, right? And
Mhm.
everyone's goal is deliver the best internship experience
Yep.
possible. So I think that that's super impactful, and I love the exercise that you all did in terms of kind of measuring that performance. That's just something that y'all are able to kind of do internally through your like HRIS system and talk with managers and that sort of thing as well, for those that are kind of asking that question of like how that exercise came to be or how long it took,
Yeah,
for lack of a better term.
it was a lot of data.
Okay.
We actually did it over 5 years. So we
Okay.
started with the class of 2019 onwards. And then, yeah, we just gathered a whole lot of performance data, a whole lot of engagement survey data,
Mhm.
promotion data.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, basically put people into cohorts,
Yeah.
um and yeah, and I think there was a lot of interesting things in there too. Like, there was one particular class that like didn't get promoted as fast, and their engagement scores reflected that. So it is really, and that was great information for us to share with our managers, and making sure that they're paying attention to that group, because their performance was good. So it wasn't like the, performance was lower, and et cetera, et cetera. Their performance was actually pretty good,
Yeah.
but they were not getting promoted as quickly. And so that was a
Yeah.
great data point for us to take back to our HR business partners and our leaders to say, hey, look, this is a group that I
Yeah.
can't remember what class of 2021 or whatever, to pay
Yeah.
attention to, and look at. But yeah, I think it's a really great exercise. And if you've got, good analytics and good data, it's definitely
Yeah.
worth taking a look at.
Certainly. No, 100%. And I mean, teams listening on the conversation today, advice on where they start if they don't have a defined strategy to engage their conversions and their alumni of their internship program today, like when they leave this conversation, like what's one thing that they could do to kind of start that thought process, that thought exercise with their broader UR team?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the easiest thing is really engaging them where they are, and that's at school. You're probably visiting their campuses. You're probably going on and recruiting the next group of interns. So I think it's like letting them know that you're going to be there at the very least, so that they can come and say hi at the booth, or come to your info session, or answer a question from a prospective candidate. I think that is probably and we're all in college recruiting season right now. So really taking a look at your schedule, taking a look at where you've got your alumni base, and making sure you're connecting those dots and sending out those messages, because that's just a really easy, nice way to connect with them. And then I would build out a calendar. Your intern conversions start in July. What are all of the things that need to happen before then? And what communications and how can you provide support during that experience? And then just making sure it doesn't go too long. I think when there's silence, that's where the doubts and, maybe I should look for another company, or maybe I should see what else is out there. So I would, say at least every 4 weeks, making sure that you're putting something in front of these people, I think is, sort of the basics that you should take a look at.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. I think that consistency in keeping the brand top of mind in that offer that maybe they signed, or that individual who maybe didn't receive that offer, but you want to stay in touch with, keeping them top of mind, and that you and the organization are still continuing to think about them and value them as an individual. I mean, your story of the woman who is coming back now from time in public accounting, right? Like case in point, Global Atlantic Financial Group was top of mind for her, just because you were staying in touch, even if it was just every 6 months,
Hmm.
at the
Yeah.
end of the day. Well, this has been a super great conversation. We do have some Q&As I want to make sure that we get to, Ashley. But I guess in thinking about everything we've discussed, right, it's kind of understanding kind of the value in reduction in recruitment costs and the increase in retention that engaging our alumni can bring, right? Kind of where to start, what your process looks like, kind of how can you get it off, and then measuring that. Any kind of key takeaways that you want to make sure that someone leaves the conversation with before we get into the Q&A?
Yeah. So something I didn't mention is that there is danger in not doing this. So, I think, number one is, renegs, right? Like it's very possible that if they're not hearing from you, they might have accepted their offer, but they're on campus, right? And there's lots of other companies that are visiting their campus. And if they feel like someone else is paying attention to them and you're not engaging with them, they're not going to have that loyalty or that thinking, that comfort where it's like, oh, maybe I should look elsewhere. So I think, the dangers in not doing that really is around renegs. I would also say brand recognition too, because, they're all talking with their peers. They're all, out there, information is so easily shared nowadays. And so you want to make sure that you're really engaging them to also spread a positive brand experience. So again, if you're not doing that, they might say like, oh, Global Atlantic is not, responding to my emails, or they're not, talking to me or letting me know what's going on. You don't want that shared, with your prospective candidate pool. So I would say, if anything else, putting together something is really important, because the dangers of not is, can really, cost money in the end, and also, sacrifice your reputation on campus.
Certainly, 100%. Well, what I want to do is dive into a few Q&As here. We had one question, Ashley, for the newsletter. Do you send it to the alumni's personal email addresses?
Yes. So we do have a distribution list. We put it in like the BCC, so they, we're not sending out other email addresses. And so that's sort of our, I guess, blanket communication out to the interns on a monthly basis. I do think we're going to leverage Abode, moving forward, now that we've, implemented and have seen great success from the platform. So having those intern conversions and alumni re-registering with Abode, and then we'll use that platform as sort of a secure way to send that information. But yes, we do use their personal or school email addresses.
And then you talked about those monthly engagement activities. What's the
Mhm.
participation rate, and are they optional?
Yes, they are optional. I would say, we get about, 50 to 60% of students, because it does happen during school, right? So, some people have classes, some have part-time jobs, so we get it that it's not always easy to log into those. We do record them, and we'll send them out afterwards as well. But yeah, we get about 50 to 60% of our classes that will participate.
Certainly. And then how many interns do you all have each year again per summer? That's another
Yeah, about
question.
65.
Okay,
Yep.
certainly.
Mhm.
How are you utilizing your alumni once they join the company to help out those currently in the internship program?
Yeah, so I mean, people love going on campus. Sometimes I have to like say, okay, you just were at the school, like, we're gonna pick somebody else, for the next round of recruiting. But yeah, I mean, we have lots of alumni that go on campus with us, that, we'll go to info sessions, we'll do panels. I think I've got like, I don't know, 20 or 25 events in the next like 6 weeks. So there's lots of opportunities for people to participate. And it's interesting, like, not everyone wants to go to their school, which is kind of interesting. Like, they just want to be a part of recruiting in general. So maybe we're not going to their school for whatever reason, and, we're going to, you know a different school. They're more than happy to participate and, jump in and help with that. But and we also have them involved in our intern champion program, which are like our intern experience experts. We also have them as mentors. They'll even become interviewers, for future intern classes. So we leverage them quite a bit to make sure that they're a part of the recruiting process.
The intern champion program, is that something that alumni can opt into? Is it kind of an
Mhm.
expectation? Like what's the level of requirement or like time for an
Yeah,
intern champion?
yeah. So our intern champions, there's about 10 to 15 of them every summer. Um, and they're responsible for like being that point of contact, like in the office. So, for example, we have 3 intern champions in Boston. We've got 20 interns there. And so they're sort of the point of contact for like questions. They also are the ones that will organize like social events. So if something is going on in the Boston area, they're local, they can sort of help organize that. They also will run 2 challenges over the summer. So we do a DE&I challenge and a networking challenge. So they're the ones that introduce the project, help answer questions, and sort of collect the projects when they're done, which is a huge lift off. Again, I'm a team of 2. So, having some more people involved in the program management has been really, really helpful. And yeah, it's sort of a volunteer opportunity, sort of above and beyond their day jobs. But they love being a part of it, and especially if they've been an intern, it's sort of like seeing that next group of people go through their internship experience.
Do you all have interns who work during the academic year, or do they just intern during the summer?
Very few. So we do have people. So the way that it works is if you accept a full-time job with us to start next year, you will have the option if there is a business need and you are available to work part-time during the school year. So we probably have like maybe 10 or so that will do that, but it is optional. But you have to accept your full-time offer. You can't just work part-time because you want to.
Certainly. Awesome. Any more questions that come from the group before we close it out? I know we're at the 45-minute mark, so and give some people some time back to snag some lunch. Um, well, Ashley, thank you so much again for the time, and we really
Yeah.
appreciate it. I hope that this was helpful for everyone joining to not only hear Global Atlantic Financial Group's perspective on best practices for engaging alumni of your internship program. Obviously, hearing how Ashley and the team are leveraging Abode. For anyone obviously on the line that is interested, would be more than happy to connect with you afterwards as well. Just reach out to me on LinkedIn. But I will be sending the recording to everyone following up on this, as well as the slides that we went through today as a follow-up. Don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Ashley on
Yep.
LinkedIn as well. Always happy to chat and be here for any questions. But thank you so much, everyone, for the time. And Ashley, thank you again so much as well. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Parker. This was a great conversation. And yeah, the offer is open. If anyone wants to talk about this topic in more detail or other topics, as we're all, going crazy during college recruiting season and, just sort of nice to check, how other companies are doing things, I'm more than happy to chat.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.